We have finally made it. Welcome, everyone, to the Media Row podcast on this Friday. We have made it to the Super Bowl weekend. Hopefully, you guys are all set, ready to go for Sunday. I know I am. We have family, friends coming over, so definitely getting hyped for that. I always wear Seahawks stuff, so you see me with my Seahawks hat, Seahawks sweatshirt. Always wear Seahawks stuff on Super Bowl day, even if the Seahawks are playing or not in it. And that's just because that's who I am as a Seahawks fan. Rep them, whether they're winning the title in 2013 or not even making the playoffs in 2025. But that's beyond the point. So hopefully you're getting prepped, ready for the Super Bowl. Have a great, safe, and exciting Super Bowl weekend. Watched a lot of golf yesterday. So watched the Waste Management Open, seeing Scheffler hole out from the sand from 104 yards on that front nine for an eagle. Place goes nuts, and he just gives like a little quick wave, acting like he just parred the hole from 2 inches, no big deal. Would love to be able to have that confidence and know like, oh, that's not as big of a deal. And then my guy Jake Knapp near the lead. I've been a big fan of Jake Knapp since last year because of his swing path and timing. It is one of the cleanest swing paths you'll see. If you haven't watched him yet, watch him in the Waste Management Open. And some bigger names starting to make a push too. You have Spieth up there at 3 under. You had Ricky Fowler up there. Or Ricky Fowler is down there, actually. Ricky Fowler did not have a good game. Meant to say Justin Thomas. Justin Thomas up there near the lead. But so watched a lot of golf yesterday. Rehung this Drake jersey because we had some maintenance stuff with the dishwasher and had to pull that down because that's where all of our switches are. So we got that hung up. We're all ready to go for this Friday. Lots to get to. Illinois State at Drake women's basketball tonight. I'll be at the game, so make sure, as always, to follow along on social media. And then you have the Drake men playing tomorrow night at 5 o'clock against Indiana State. We'll preview that. And then my predictions for the Super Bowl this weekend. Let's jump to it. So, Illinois State at Drake this weekend, tonight, I should say. Redbirds sit in a tie for second place. This is really a battle for second place right now in the Knapp Center. In a tie for second in the Missouri Valley Conference, 14-7, 8-3. They've won 5 straight. All 5 games they've won by either 9 or more points. And then you have the Drake Bulldogs sitting not far behind them, 7-3 in the conference, 13-8 overall, and on a 2-game winning streak. Really have flipped the switch since that rare 3-game losing streak that they had earlier in the year. But again, those 3 games, that was at Missouri State, against Murray State, and against Belmont, the 3 best teams in the Valley right now. But the Redbirds are always a challenge for Drake. They're well coached by Coach Gillespie. They have a lot of great young talent that can compete with Dennebeer and Miller, especially those two tonight, because you have Anna Miller strong in the paint, last year's Defensive Player of the Year in the Missouri Valley, going up against a sophomore post player in Navis Thomas. 13 points per game, efficient as hell underneath the hoop at 57%, 7.6 rebounds per game. And you'll have Miller occupied in the paint defensively, while Katie Dennebeer is going to be occupied dealing with one of the best young guards in the conference right now in sophomore guard Shannon Dowell, 15.8 points per game. Not a great deep ball threat, but definitely someone who still attacks and is known for just her driving ability and playmaking ability. And that's why this guard matchup will be really fun to watch I don't think it'll be the level of like a Maya McDermott versus Katie Dennebeer, because that just had storylines written all over it. This one is just in terms of play style. You have Dowell, who is a young player, good on defense, can make her teammates better around her, put her teammates in the best position possible, and attacks going downhill. Katie Dennebeer, a way better shooter from behind the arc, but when you think of Katie, You think of going downhill, those and one layups, those fantastic, offensive possessions where she just goes on attack mode, and her downhill, despite her smaller size, is unstoppable. And then you think of her strong defense and the steals and the fast break she's able to create. So the two stars going head-to-head with each other over this game will be fun to watch. Katie Dinnebier and Anna Miller definitely going to have a big night. Thomas also, something I should mention. Anna Miller, I know for sure, will be aware of this. 6 double-doubles this season. 2 of the last 5 she's recorded double-doubles. So Navis Thomas going to be a huge matchup against Anna Miller. Anna Miller, though, that experience and the depth that this Drake team has is going to be crucial. And that's what we saw that happen the last time these two teams played. Drake, 23 fast break points, huge. That is like my number one point. It's like for the men, my number one point is get more people involved other than Bennett Sturts. And then for the women, it's get out into transition. Get fast break points. It's crucial for this team to get into an offensive rhythm. And the last time against Illinois State, they won 85-64 on the road. They had great depth, 6 Bulldogs with 10-plus points. They were moving the ball great. Of 26 team assists, that's number 2 on my keys of moving the ball, 26 team assists. That led to open three-pointers. Drake took advantage of that, 12 made three-pointers. And then they were able to force turnovers, 10 turnovers on Illinois State. Really, Illinois State just had 3 players with 12-plus points with their leading scorer at 14 points in Dow. So really Drake taking the stars out of the game for Illinois State, taking the bench out of the game, and forcing turnovers, getting on fast breaks. Should be a really fun game in the Knapp Center. A lot on the line here, too, as the season's coming to a close. Head coach Kristen Gillespie, though, she'll be ready. I mean, this is another great coaching matchup like we saw against UNI. Now Pullman going up against Kristen Gillespie. She's been there for 8 seasons, 237 wins, 147 losses. Searching to lead the Redbirds to their 5th straight postseason appearance, either in the NCAA tournament or NIT, looking for their 3rd straight 20-win season. And she has a lot of great experience, too, as a player. She was a guard for North Carolina State in the late 90s, 3-year captain, and was the starting point guard on that great 1998 Final Four team. So the coaching matchup is going to be fantastic. The guard matchup is going to be fantastic. The big matchup in the post will be fantastic as well, with Miller and Thomas going head-to-head. Really excited to see what happens. We'll talk to players and coaches after the game as per usual, so make sure to follow at Media Row Pod on Twitter. And again, just to reiterate, the 3 big things Drake needs to do in this game. Number 1 is fast break points. Cause turnovers and get out into transition. 23 fast break points the last time out. Move the ball efficiently. Get multiple players involved. 26 team assists the last time out. And then 3rd, just utilize everyone. I mean, you had Ava Hawthorne off the bench putting up 10-plus points. Dinnebier, Miller. You had 6 Bulldogs the last time out putting up 10-plus points. So it should be a really fun one. That one tips off tonight at 5 o'clock. Try to get there because it should be a really fun one. And, really excited. 6 o'clock. I almost messed that up. Be there at 6 o'clock is when the tip-off is. So Saturday, the 5 o'clock game that I kept messing up was Drake men taking on Indiana State. Bulldogs 21-2, 11-2 in the conference, taking on Indiana State 12-12, 6-7, tied for 2nd largest win streak at 3 games right now. Drake, of course, number 1 with 9 straight games. And Indiana State slowly starting to figure it out. You had 4 players in double figures the last time out against Valpo. Starters are starting to really gel together. It's not just relying on Samaj Teal. You have Doherty, Teal, Wagner, Daughtry, and Gray, all with 10-plus points on average last week. And the big story for this Indiana State team offensively is Camp Wagner. He's starting to really take some of that pressure off of the great player that Samaj Teal is. And Camp Wagner, these last few games has been on an unbelievable stretch. 19 points per game in these last 3, averaging 5 threes a game, and can stretch the floor. So I'm looking at that matchup, and I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be a fireworks display in the net center with Mitch Muscari and Camp Wagner just launching threes, because they're both 6'6", they're both veteran players, and they're very efficient. When they're hot, they're one of the toughest players to guard in the Missouri Valley. They've just both gone through their ups and downs on the season. And Mitch Muscari, he's starting to, steady out a little more near those 9 points per game, 10 points per game, which is where Drake wants him. When you have a guy like Bennett Sturts who can really just score at will, and sometimes, he does it so easily that you forget that he's putting up 18-plus points a game. But it just fits the Drake mold if Mitch Muscari has an efficient 9, 10-plus point performance of just the style of play that Drake has of slowing it down. They don't look for shooters as often, like Ben McCollum was talking about in Wednesday's press conference. So really excited to watch that matchup between Mitch Muscari and Camp Wagner. That one should be really fun on Saturday as well. But these are two teams that started the season off at the same exact spot, meaning you had 2 coaches leave, a bunch of players transfer out, and now you're left with trying to figure out an identity. Drake, that winning culture, like yesterday's show I was going into with Ben McCollum, it hasn't stubbed their toe. It hasn't stepped back at all. Indiana State starting to have what most people expect would happen when you lose 9 players, when you get a brand new head coach, and their new head coach is Matthew Graves, previously a 3-year assistant coach for Indiana State. Like I said, they lost 9 players, all their main star players outside of Teal. Bookett hit the transfer portal, and they had more of a season that you would expect from a team that lost that much. Started out fairly well. They were a really exciting team, and then really hit a downward spiral in that mid to late January mark, and now they're starting to turn it around, and that's a big part of just getting more players involved. When it's all on Teal's shoulders, this is a team destined to get blown out, just like they were against Drake and earlier this year when Drake won 71-53. But 2 teams, a lot in common between these two, and we know the great history between the Sycamores and the Bulldogs and how they've always had great games, especially of late. But now you're having new faces, new coaches, new cultures, new plans, new game style, new play, everything's new. So even to some of these players, like Bennett Sturts doesn't know the Indiana State rivalry. Mitch Muscari doesn't. The only person that really does is Nate Ferguson, and he didn't even have a bunch of minutes per game last season. So it's going to be a fun one on Saturday. Really like how these two teams match up. Quickly going over what Drake did well the last time they faced the Sycamores when they won 71-53 on the road. This was starting to see Mitch Muscari come back to his old form. That was a huge game for him, just confident-wise. And a big reason Drake dominated that game was, number one, they took control of the paint. And that starts with those easy pick and rolls from Tavion Banks, Cam Mannion, Abreu, Sturts definitely leading those pick and rolls of just getting to the paint, attacking that paint. And really, when you do that, you're setting yourself up. You're getting that early confidence, and your shooting percentage will skyrocket. They shot 53%, which we know how well Drake does when they shoot over 50%. And then you have just control of the game and the clock. And that's where Drake thrives. They're a team, if they can control the clock, limit your possessions, really tire you out defensively, and make you feel like you have to rush offensively while you're going up against the best defense in the conference, Drake wins all day. But so they took control of the paint. They outscored Indiana State 38-28 in the paint. And then another thing, very similar to the women, of just continue to get the ball moving. Don't let it stick. We saw it really stick against Murray State on the road, and Drake was able to sneak out a 10-point victory, but it was a physical game. Murray State really matched them up defensively well, took control of those driving lanes, and you didn't have as many assists. Drake just couldn't get that ball bouncing around the arc like Ben McCollum wants to see them do, and like they did in Indiana State, where they had 16 team assists, which then, like we said, if they're able to move the ball around, take control of the clock, and then get back on defense and force the team to feel like they have to start cutting into a big lead and getting too chaotic offensively, Drake's going to take advantage. And that's what they did against Indiana State earlier when they forced 19 turnovers and converting on those turnovers as well. Because we've seen Drake turn over the ball, but then teams like Murray State are able to kind of limit those transition points. Illinois State did an okay job of that earlier this year in Des Moines. So getting those turnovers along with just moving the ball around and not letting it just stick to one person. And then finally, I'm expecting a closer game than it was in Indiana State, 71-53. I think this one will be closer just because we're not used to seeing Drake blow teams out like they did against Bradley. And I think a big key, the final key for this game for the Bulldogs to come out with a victory, is just get a strong outing from Cam Manyow as well as Daniel Abreu. And that's because against Murray State, there were some great drawn-up plays with open baskets around that 2 to 3 feet range and just couldn't get them to fall. They just weren't falling. And Cam Manyow, I hope he has a game like we saw against UNI where he kind of takes over, scores 9+ points, and because he's such a factor defensively and on the glass that you want to get his confidence growing offensively, because you could tell the frustration was hitting him hard against Murray State. And then Daniel Abreu, went 2 of 3 against Murray State, but again, just felt like there was times passing up shots, not able to get clean looks, clean grabs deep in the paint. So really for them to take down an Indiana State team that is starting to gel is get into the paint and get your bigs involved, because you do that and you force Indiana State to have to start guarding those backdoor cuts like Drake is so efficient with. It's going to leave open Mitch Muscari. It's going to leave open Bennett Sturts, Isaiah Howard. You're going to have open shooters. And Cal Combs, who has been playing really aggressively, which I love seeing from the young player. So get the bigs involved, I think, will be my third and final key. But expect this game to be closer than it was earlier this year when it was 71-53. Definitely don't think it'll be a blowout in the Knapp Center, just because Indiana State they're starting to find a rhythm. They're not a pushover team. They're another team that may not be as scary as a few others in the Valley, but definitely with the young players they have and what they had to rebuild from, definitely not a terrible season so far. I think Indiana State fans expect a little more, but they're on the right track. They have the tools in place. Graves, I think, is a great hire for them because you keep someone who is in the system, who knows this team, knows the community, knows the conference. I think Matthew Graves was a great hire and will be good moving forward into the year. So Drake taking on Indiana State at the Knapp Center on Saturday at 5 o'clock. Make sure to follow along on Twitter at Justin_C Miller, as well as at Media Row Pod, for all of our updates throughout the game. and of course for the coaches and player interviews afterwards as well. Now, let's get to it. Put those chicken wings down and get ready for the Super Bowl. So the Chiefs taking on the Eagles, 15-2. The Chiefs finished the regular season. Eagles 14-3 in the regular season. A lot of people, don't know really what to expect from this game. Kansas City, a 1-point favorite. Philadelphia, right now, money line is even. Kansas City, 6-5 all-time versus Philadelphia. Take what you want with those all-time records. The only one I think Philadelphia really cares about and remembers is 2 years ago. So they're going to be coming in with some attitude and some payback in their minds. Kansas City, of course, trying to make history of being the first NFL team to win 3 straight Super Bowls. And Brady never did it. Montana never did it. Aikman never did it. You have all these legends who have never been able to win more than just 2 in a row. And Mahomes could really solidify himself as one of the greats if he just finishes off this game. And so with this game, when it's so evenly spaced out of, I really don't know who's going to win. And I'm not one of those people who is going to sit here and go, well, the NFL is just going to make the Chiefs win. They're going to pay the refs and cheat this one for the Chiefs. I don't believe that whatsoever. I think this one is going to be a battle. I think it's going to be a low-scoring battle. If you're the Eagles, you want it to be a low-scoring battle. Because if you get into a shootout, Eagles do not have the offense in terms of passing and getting quick scores like they did 2 years ago. Now they have a great running back, Saquon Barkley, who has been unbelievable. Saquon Barkley, 5 touchdowns, 445 yards in the playoffs, averaging 150 per game and 2 touchdowns. And the main thing I'm concerned about with the Chiefs have been really kind of their defense hasn't been impressive. And then their scoring doesn't feel like that same Kansas City type of just blowing the roof off of defenders deep. It feels more methodical. It felt like there's a lot more ugly games. They didn't score over 30 points this year until the AFC Championship, which is very rare for the Kansas City Chiefs of late. But they've proved me wrong with all those concerns. I had the Bills beating them. I would have had the Ravens beating them in the AFC Championship. They've proved me wrong. And usually in a game like this where 2 teams are so evenly matched, I would go with the defense. I would take Philly, who's the best defense all year long. They're better statistically in every category than the Chiefs, I think, other than passing. And so usually I look at that and there's my pick. I'm taking the Eagles all day long. But give me coaching, give me the history being made, and give me the Kansas City Chiefs pulling this off. And again, it's not because the refs are going to give it to him. It's because Andy Reid is a Hall of Fame coach, and he has the best quarterback right now in the National Football League right now. And this team is going to get it done. It's not going to be an unbelievably pretty offensive game by any team. I truly believe that. I think it will be kind of a smash mouth football game, which I would love to see. Make it entertaining. Just don't be a blowout is all I ask. But give me the coaching, history, and give me the Chiefs for the Super Bowl. So, Chiefs right now at a 1-point favorite, money line, even right now with the Eagles. And something fun to watch out for on Sunday on the Media Row pod, as well as my personal Twitter, is every Super Bowl that the Seahawks aren't involved in since, I think, 2 years ago, I started trying to put up these stupid parlays. Like last year, I think I had Kittle catching 2 touchdowns, Purdy throwing over 2 touchdowns, Mahomes over 2 touchdowns, all these things that would have to happen for like a $5 bet, and I'd get like $800 or something. So I always like to do that. Makes a game that I truly don't really care who wins more interesting. and it's $5, and I feel okay spending that because I'm not a huge sports bettor. But so be on the lookout for what my crazy, stupid parlay is going to be for the Super Bowl on Sunday. Usually, I'll probably post that right before the game, and we always have a whiteboard that we put up, and we do the checkoffs. And I think last year I did like an 8-leg parlay, and I think last year I got around 4 or 5. So I was actually kind of happy with that. Made it interesting all the way through. But give me the Chiefs. That's my pick. And no, it's not because of the refs, but should be a fun Super Bowl, just a fun sports weekend. College basketball is at its height right now in both the men and women's side because we're almost to March. All these games matter. And then you have the Super Bowl on Sunday. So make sure to follow along throughout the weekend and all the Drake games for press conferences, kind of our thoughts throughout the game on social media. And make sure to give us a rating as well on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, YouTube as well. Like, subscribe, comment, and try to get out every day, Monday through Friday at 2 o'clock. Make sure to join us on Monday when you're in your food coma for Monday's show of Media Row Pod, where we'll recap all the Drake games from this weekend and, of course, the Super Bowl. See you guys on Monday at 2.